man, these vlogs are getting late, huh? Like, I have to look at this twice. So there's a couple of reasons why I keep showing up here every day. The number one is that I said I would. If you watched my core values and the 10 rules that I have for life, the first one is do what you say. But there's a reason, because it's how I have a very predictable life. But it's funny. I smell like fire. So I was just outside teaching our kids how to start a fire from scratch. I mean, nothing, like no matches, no gas, no starter, like nothing. We went out into our field on our property and got tinder and kindling and some grass, and I explained what a bow saw was and a bow drill and all the things that we probably will never use. And I explained the value of having a whole bunch of 99-cent Bic lighters, and how if it's 20 below, you have to probably throw them in your armpit for a minute to 2 minutes before that butane actually works. And if they break, it's a mess, but you can still use a striker, and how to use a ferro rod, and how to use magnesium, and what the purpose is and why you do it, how to build a fire. And then I made them both, and I videoed the whole thing, because so my dad made me start fires ever since I can remember. When I would go camping, the first thing he would say is go get wood. And if you asked my mom in her 80s, she would tell you, yep, it was always go get wood. But today we went outside. It's cold today. It's like 22 degrees, and I realize that's not cold in the big picture. But I asked my son when we were walking out with my daughter and I asked Pierce, I said, hey, listen, why do you think we're going to learn this? And he goes, well, and then he went, I don't know. Don't we just use, and I had them bring a long stick lighter, right? Like a barbecue lighter, a fireplace lighter. And I said, he goes, wouldn't we just use this? And then he said, and I know how to do this. I did this when I was in school. And I said, okay, perfect. I said, then you can start the fire right away, and I'll explain, I'll help you gather everything. And I said, but you're doing this because if you needed to know this, you feel safe in the fact that you have the knowledge to do it. It's not a matter of, I could do it, I think I could because I saw it. It's that you're actually comfortable with yourself and you know how to do it. That feeling of safety with yourself, that feeling of safety that someone else has in you, is so critical. Like if you want to just have ridiculous amounts of money and in like 20 years of marriage, if you want to have the most epic marriage of your life, I mean, we're talking the most affection, the deepest connection, the most trust and devotion, the wildest, craziest sex, the most amazing, beautiful life you can share with somebody. If you want to have that, if you want to have a business that just throws millions upon millions of dollars at you, if you want to have kids that listen to you, respect you, challenge you, but do the things that you need them to do and learn the things they need to learn to become these leaders of the world, if you want to have the body and the fitness and the athletic ability and the longevity, all of these things are predicated on safety. And I mean safety with yourself and safety that others have and believe in you. And let me explain what I mean, because there's going to be demons inside you that you've got to wrestle with, and everybody does. And full transparency, I have just about burned my life to the fucking ground because I didn't, and it was all my fault. 2 times in my life, 3 actually times in my life, I've had no money. I mean, no money. And one of those times was with my wife, and I didn't tell her. I hid it from her, and she knows everything now. That's not it. Like, one of the things you can do in your relationship is be transparent. And when I say no secrets, that's safety. And it's not no secrets, like I could, and I'm looking at my phone, but I could hand Brandy my phone and I don't care. I got nothing to hide. The best thing I think I could ever say to Brandy is if my phone dings or it rings, and I go, can you just check that for me, babe? I'm over here doing something. Because I have nothing to hide. I have no lies, no secrets, but she feels safe in that, and I feel safe in that. And I really hope that makes sense, because the value behind that, the worth in that, and the power behind that kind of transparency in a relationship is immeasurable. Because today she said something to me. She goes, I always know I'm safe with you. And that's what prompted part of this conversation. She goes, I mean like safe. And she says, like, I feel safe to tell you anything I want to do in the bedroom. I feel safe to tell you anything I'm concerned about or I'm afraid of, or that keeps me awake at night, or I feel safe that you're going to take care of us, that you can, if we had nothing, that you could make the money, you could hunt the food, you could build the fire, you could give the shelter. She's like, really feel safe with you. And she's like, she got all teary-eyed. She's like, I really do. She goes, you make me feel so safe with you that I just never have to worry. And that in turn made me feel safe with myself, because it's not that you have to prove it to somebody. It's that you have to prove it to yourself, and then somebody else believes in you. Because if you don't believe in you, nobody else is going to. And those are those demons that you have to wrestle with. So when Pierce asked, why do we need to learn how to do this? I said, because if you needed to know, you don't have to think. You don't have to go, I saw it on a YouTube video. And that's what I was talking about yesterday, is people see the solution and they go, well, I could look it up if I need to, but right now I'm going to go back to this entertainment. But I know it's there. It's like having, it's like this gun on my hip. It's like having this gun or any kind of a weapon, but having zero idea how to use it, never discharging a firearm, not even knowing what the dangerous end is, but going, I feel safe that I have it. Where? In your gun safe at home? Where you know nothing about it, but you think because you watched, what? You play Halo, you're an expert? You play Call of Duty, so now you know all about it? That's the problem, is you really don't feel safe. You live behind this veil of lies, and inside your soul, you know it. And so all of these times that I've had adversity, they've always been my fault. Even if you go, no, they haven't. Yes, they have. Because you have either, the reason I say that is because you have to put yourself in the situation that allows you to control the situation. And the only way you can do that is by going, I caused this problem. Because if you extricate yourself from circumstances, then you also remove your ability to change said circumstances. And it's very easy nowadays to blame. It's very easy nowadays to go, well, it's because of that. And then just turn off. And that's kind of what Pierce was doing. He got very frustrated today because, I mean, he's 15 and a half and my daughter's 18, and I had them both out there. And they're both freezing, and my daughter's wearing this Santa Claus beanie, and they're in sweatshirts and dressed like shit. And I went, okay, I'm gonna let them do it. I'll let you suffer. And I made sure we walked far. I didn't go out, like, I could have got Tinder there's so much, we're on a bunch of land. I could have picked all this stuff up anywhere. But I made them walk out to the bush. And I told them what would work, what wouldn't, why this works, why this doesn't. And then I explained a bunch of things. I made them stand out there because I was warm, because I was prepared. I knew I was safe. They felt safe in the fact that Dad was there. And they did. They told me that. They said, you're with me. I'm fine. The constant joke is when we watch a show, whether it's something on TV, Alone or something, or Survivor or whatever, which, listen, that's not real. But watching this show, the constant dialogue in my house is that, yeah, but we'd be okay because we have Dad. Dad knows how to do all this. Well, it's my job as dad to teach them how to do this, because eventually Dad's not going to be around. My dad taught me how to do a ton of stuff. And the things he didn't teach me, I taught myself. And some of those things were like running a business and respecting and how to, like, money and earning money and being okay with having massive amounts of wealth and not beating myself up internally, wrestling with a demon, going, I shouldn't have this money because it makes me a bad person. I don't deserve this money because, like, the subconscious dialogue that's running in a lot of your heads is that you shouldn't have the money. You don't deserve the money. Money makes you a bad person. Like I said, my mom would say all the time, well, you have to step on people to be rich. Well, what she was doing was giving herself permission to not be rich by putting herself at a higher level, going, well, I'm not willing to stoop to that level and engage in conduct that is not something I agree with, that is required to become wealthy. Therefore, that's why I'm not wealthy. So she elevated herself in her mindset about why we had no money because she was a better person. But inside she knew that was a lie. And I actually I struggled with that. I had to come to terms with that, because there was a long time where I'd go, you know, I guess, yeah, being rich is ridiculous. It's terrible. You have to be a bad person to have a lot of money. No, you don't. In fact, it's usually the opposite, unless you are inherently a bad person. And just so you know, success, money, adversity, all of those things introduce you to who you are. So if you are presented with adversity, I can use cancer as an example because I've gone through it multiple times and some of you guys have watched me actually go through it. But if you use cancer as your reason why you aren't winning, you're a liar. Like, you're a fucking liar. You've never handled that demon because you're afraid. And you're running away from the adversity, and instead you're going back to a place that is barren and a wasteland filled with no resources, and you don't have the resourcefulness to go to the next level and confront that demon and go to war and go, all right, I need to engage in battle. See, the battle you have to engage in is all the circumstances around you and all the situations around you, and then the demons that come with those situations and the demons that you carry with yourself. Because you're carrying all kinds of baggage with you that you don't even know. Why do you act the way you do? Why do you think the way you do? Why is your character the way it is? Those are questions you should ask yourself, because a lot of times you do things reflexively because you have a belief, but you should ask, why do I believe that? Because if the belief doesn't serve you and it keeps you in a certain place, there's a big problem with that belief, because it's costing you the life that you are desperate to have but unwilling to sacrifice for. So it comes back to the fire with Pierce. And I know that they said, like, hey, yeah, we feel safe. We've got Dad. But they feel safe because I'm there. But what if I'm plucked out of the situation? Do they still feel safe with themselves? Because that carries over into the rest of their lives, because that lack of confidence in your ability to do something is the ultimate negative skill transfer, because you will carry that into, well, I can't speak in front of people. I can't make money. I can't ask people for that kind of money because that's too much money. I can't, I'm a terrible husband. I'm a terrible wife because, you know, well, you're not safe with yourself, which means you aren't safe with circumstances around you. That's a pretty big fucking deal, because it's going to cost you the life that you want. So I made them gather everything, and I made them come back closer to the house, and I made them start the fire from square one with nothing but a ferro rod. And if you don't know what a ferro rod is, it's just a striking rod. It makes a bunch of sparks. And I wanted them to understand that preparation is more important than making the spark. And that's life. Preparation is more important than the spark. The spark is the idea that you could be successful, the idea that you can have a great marriage, the idea that you can have a great business, the idea that you can be muscular. And I'll explain what I mean, because I set up everything. I walked them through it, and I started building my own pile. And then I went, no, wait a minute. I know I can make fire because I've done it thousands of times. And this is anything. This is exactly why I consult people about their business. I know I can make a successful business because I haven't done it once. I've done it multiple times. I know that I have a successful marriage because I'm in one for the last 20 years. And I've faced the demons, and I've gone toe to toe with the adversity, and I've gone into battle going, I know what's required of me is on the other side of that battle. And half of that battle is inside me and the other half is outside of me. But both of them are my responsibility. And so I let them set up their little piles of tinder, and I showed Hope how to use the striking rod, right? The ferro rod rather. And honestly, probably 3 strikes, 4 maybe, bang, 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 start a fire. I just looked, because the more, the one who wants to try things more and is very, very confident in themselves is our son. But Hope knocked it out of the park. Like I gave her a fist bump twice, and I was like, I was so proud of my daughter. Like, I watched her do this, I went, holy shit, you can make fire. I go, now what do you do? And she kept it going on her own. She's like, well, I have to have this and I have to do this because I was listening to you, Dad. I realized she might never need to know this, but she also never needs to think about it again because she knows how. So my son goes, I've seen this done, I've done it before, and I know how to do this, I could do this. Well, he was even having a hard time getting a spark, and he was getting frustrated. So you have to talk somebody down, because if you are frustrated in a situation, it makes you do what I talked about the other day, which is seek distraction and escape, because you start going down that rabbit hole, and that rabbit hole can be anything. It can be drugs, alcohol, porn, video games, cheating on your spouse, running away, busy work, like hiding from the thing that you need to fight, that Goliath, like I talked about yesterday. Like you're running away from Goliath, yet you have to understand that you have 5 smooth stones, man. Like, you're David, you've got it. And those are under the guidance of God. You don't have to worry. It's when you're concerned that you even have the stones. That's the problem. Because what ended up happening, if you don't know the story, ultimately, David killed Goliath, who was a seasoned warrior, and David was a fucking shepherd. And then he took the sword and took Goliath's head in the name of the Lord. And I made a post yesterday about that, saying that was one of the things that I believe God charged me with was, I'm your armor. Now, pick up a shield and that big ass sword, and you start taking the heads of every Goliath you see. I firmly believe that's my goal. My purpose is to save as many people as possible. Because people are afraid to step up and be a leader for others and create more leaders. It's not to be a dictator. A leader creates more leaders, but you have to be the leader in yourself first, and that means you are safe with yourself, and then other people feel safe with you. That's how you lead. If you have no safety in yourself, nobody's going to follow you. They're not going to give you money, or your wife's not going to give you anything. Your kids aren't going to respect you. Your business is going to fail. Like, I realized that the couple of times that I've had nothing, like I was saying, just to come back to that, it was because I was a shitty leader for myself. I am always the problem, and I am always the solution. And that is something that until you grasp that, until you understand that self-mastery is the solution to everything, you're going to look externally for solutions, and you're going to blame external issues and your circumstances for why you aren't where you want to be, why you don't have what you want to have. Like Pierce was striking the Pharaoh, and had he not seen Hope do it, and they're siblings, they shit talk each other all the time. But had he not seen her do that, he would have blamed that. And he's like, I don't get it. He was getting frustrated. So I talked him down and I got him situated. And then we figured out what the issue was, which was his Tinder. And I realized it might just sound like a wasted story about starting a fire, but there's an important aspect to this. And that is he was facing, that's his battle. That was his battle. That was the external portion of that battle. That was his circumstances. His circumstances were, Dad's not going to let me go in the house until I start this fire. And I wasn't. I don't care. It's dark outside, and I would have made him stay out there until that fire. He could have been crying and snot everywhere and bawling his eyes out. I would have stood out there with him the entire time, but I would have made him start that fire. Because otherwise the issue becomes, I gave him a way out, and it's going to be 100 times harder for him to do that, which is why a lot of you guys have a difficult time with life, because you gave yourself a pass. You took a fucking mulligan. You didn't handle the battle. And now that demon inside digs its claws into your mind even more. And now the next time is even harder. So now, not only do you have to step into the battle, you have to step into the battle carrying the loss of the last one, because the fact that you didn't face whatever the opponent was, the circumstances, the situations were, that's a win for whatever that was. And that's how your subconscious mind is going to interpret it. You're not going to go, well, last time it didn't work, I'm fine with it. You will carry that with you, and that will gnaw away at you and erode your armor and your shield until you go there buck fucking naked facing an entire army, because that's how big you've built it by your own conduct. So he was getting frustrated, so we picked apart the problem. Turned out there was an issue with some of the Tinder. He was using something that it just wasn't working. And so we found something different and better and more effective. Now, I had a secret, and I didn't want to tell them this until the end, because otherwise they're going to go, well, I could do it. This is why. I had something in my pocket that was going to make it significantly easier. And had I told them that, they're going, well, I don't really need to know this because I have that other thing. That's why I'm telling you, you need to feel safe in yourself, not safe in what you could do potentially. Potential success is not success. A potential victory is not a victory. And that's what he was saying. He goes, I've watched this video on YouTube so many times. I know how to do this. I could do it with Flint, no problem. And that's what he walked out talking high and mighty, and he got humbled real quick. But that's also why I made him start the fire, because had he not faced that opponent, it's just a simple fire in my backyard. But had he not done it, that carries over. That's what I told you. That's the most powerful negative skill transfer in the world, is not getting in and going to war with whatever you need to and annihilating the demon in your mind. So now the demon becomes much more powerful. And so he got it started, and even he said, he goes, wow, I didn't think it was going to be this hard. I'm really shocked. He goes, I want to try this again because I think my performance was terrible. I was so proud of my boy for saying that, because he didn't go, okay, I got it, I'm retiring the champ. He went, no, it wasn't good enough. That's a leader. A leader goes, I won. And this is where I think a lot of people get confused, is they go, well, okay, you got your $1 million in entrepreneurship. This is how you get ridiculously wealthy. I mean, stupid, fucking rich as hell. Is you go, okay, I did the million, how do I do 2? Okay, I did 2, how do I do 10? And the people at the bottom go, well, you're just greedy now. Like, what does Elon Musk need all that money for? What does Warren Buffett need all that money for? What does Grant Cardone need all that money for? They don't play it primarily for the money. They play it because they love the game and they keep out doing what they did yesterday. That is one of my core values, is make the wins of today the standards for tomorrow. Well, you have to do that in all areas of your life. Heck, when Brandy and I have sex, I go, how can I make her orgasm even more intense? How can I blow her socks off? How can I just make her just go nuts? And that the neighbors 7 doors down and 8 miles away go, holy shit, the Bachmeyers are fucking again. I like making her lose her shit. Why wouldn't I? Because then that makes me feel good. But that's also business. I like making people win, giving them the tools to succeed, and then hammering on them until they win. Because I won't let them leave the arena until they defeat the opponent. That's a great coach. That's a great consultant. I like when I do a workout and I face that opponent. I'm like, fuck, you're not going to beat me today. Because it's not the workout. My buddy Tim Elliott said this. It's not the workout that's doing it. It's the completion. When you're done and you go, that's right. Because the demon runs away. Because you won. But a lot of people aren't willing to do that. So my job is to make sure that my wife feels safe for them. Right? My kids, my wife and kids feel safe. My job for my clients, for our customers, is to make sure they feel safe. My job for myself is to make sure I feel safe. So there's 2 sides of that equation. And if you're not handling that, the issue becomes, now you don't feel safe, nobody trusts you. That's what I was talking about. And what ends up happening is a lot of people do this. They cycle back and forth between wins and losses. They go from absolute catastrophe to winning the lottery, and then absolute catastrophe to winning the lottery. These are the people that they lose the weight and then gain it all back again. They gain the muscle and then lose everything and lose all the ambition again to train. They get super excited, the planning phase about the business, and they build this business in their mind, and they're like, I want to make this much money and I want to do all this. And then they get into the hard work and the gritty, boring shit that they have to do every single day. That is not painted beautifully all over social media, that's behind the scenes. And they go, I can't do this, so they find a way to escape. That's where they run down the rabbit hole, the drugs, the alcohol, the porn, the sex, the busy work, the internet, the social media surfing, all the things that occupy their mind so they don't have to face their opponent. But yet the demon inside is winning. Every time that demon's claws get a little longer and they dig a little harder into you, because what ends up happening is now every time you see that same opponent, they're going to be bigger, stronger, tougher, and more prepared than you. And the demon starts digging into all the emotions in your brain, makes it feel 100 times worse. And until you face it, it's always going to get worse. So people keep running from everything for their entire life. They get married just married, divorced. They can't handle their own adversity. They can't handle the opponent. Well, since the opponent is married to the demon, they can't handle either or. They can't handle what's outside of their life, which means they can't handle what's inside of their life. Like, could you imagine, would you ever listen to me if I ran away and I used cancer as a crutch? If I sat here and all I did was blame cancer for why I am where I am in my life, I blame cancer for making me successful and making God, or making sure that God saw I'm the baddest son of a bitch he's ever seen, the most savage gladiator he's ever created. And that's the same reason why I made our kids start a fire. Because had I given them a way out, no matter how cold it was, no matter how windy, the tinder was blowing everywhere, it didn't matter. If I didn't make them finish it, like I told you with Brandy, right? Complete incompletion. She's the most reliable human being I've ever met in my life. And I respect her so much for that. And I absolutely adore my wife. God, I adore my wife. And she's so fucking sexy. Like, mentally and physically, everything about her is just so sexy. God, I can't get enough of that woman. I want to turn this off and go inside. Yeah, for that. The point is that you have to make sure that you feel safe with yourself and everybody else feels safe with you. And the only way everybody else feels safe with you is by you feeling safe with yourself, which means you face the demon. But if I came out here and I ran away from cancer, and now I'm here trying to explain how to win in life, how to get just ridiculously wealthy, how to have an incredible marriage, how to solve every business problem you've ever had, how to solve what I call the life equation. And I'm telling you how to do it, but I've never done it for myself. You're not going to feel safe in anything I say. You're not going to trust me, which means you don't feel safe. See, I think so many people out there are giving advice based on things they wish they were doing that they haven't done, which is why nobody's buying the things they have. I know personally people, they've gone through coaches, they've created businesses, and they haven't made a dime, and then they blame something for it. You're blaming something because you haven't been willing to face your opponent. You haven't spent the money, you haven't spent the time, you haven't spent the energy because you're too busy running away. Well, that demon just digs their claws into you even further. And you talk a good game, but you play a terrible game. You can win every fight verbally, but you can't win anything the second you get in the arena, and that's because you don't trust yourself. You haven't thrown enough kicks and punches. You haven't had enough submissions. You haven't lost enough. You haven't had your ass handed to you enough and gotten back up. And that's what I made my kids do. Start the fire. Because once it was done, now I showed them the easy way. I took out a cotton ball, soaked in Vaseline. Actually, I used Vicks Vapor Rub because when I would go snowmobiling and I used to race snowcross, when I would be out practicing or I'd be out in the bush, I'd have it because sometimes I'd put it under my eyes or on my chest or something. Made me feel better, helped me breathe a little easier. But it works the same. And I soaked it. I'd melt it in the microwave and soak the cotton ball in it, and I'd put it into, it used to be film containers, the 35 millimeter film containers, but I don't even think they have that stuff anymore. But I use just an old bottle, like an old medicine bottle, old vitamin bottle, it doesn't matter, something just that seals up. And I just stuffed it full of, 10, 15 cotton balls, and I had it in my pocket. And I said, now, here, we're gonna use this. And I opened it up, and I told him exactly what it was, and I said, watch, one flick. I actually have it on video. And even Pierce goes, holy smokes, that was easy. I go, yeah, but now you know how to do it when it's hard, which makes this much more effective for you mentally, because now you know the shortcut, and now you deserve the shortcut because you know how to do it. See, if you don't, the problem is you think it's always going to be that easy. If you've had to handle adversity, then you're always prepared for it. If you've never had to handle adversity, then when the easy solution comes along and you take it and you use it, that's great, but it's not going to stay that way. So now you get you're forced to face some incredibly difficult times. You have no idea what to do because you keep expecting it to be easy. That's what you parents are doing when you're giving little Timmy a participation trophy or you're not playing for points. Listen, little Timmy can't swing a bat and he's 100 pounds overweight. That's your fault as a parent. That is not Timmy's fault. It's because you don't have the chops, the stones to sit down with Timmy and go, no, you're not eating that. I don't care how much you scream and yell and whine and complain and you want the candy bars for fucking dinner. And then you start making little Timmy do laps around your yard. Because what happens when your dog has, every time I see an owner and I see them with a fat dog, I go, dude, that's your fault. Your dog didn't accidentally eat anything. You shoved the bowl in front of him because little Fifi was whining and pawing at your leg. And you're like, oh, he's so cute. You probably dress your dog up as a person too. The dog's a dog. Oh, I love dogs. Believe me, if you don't like dogs, we're not getting along. I love our dogs. However, I'm also responsible for how they travel through life, the success or failure they have. If my dog gets sick because they're overweight, it's my fault. The vet should punch me in the face. But what do people do when their animal's overweight? Cut back on the food and take them for more walks. How are you people having such a difficult time losing weight? Eat less, move more, calories in, calories out. You can argue all you want, I'm still right. Physics is on my side. Physiology is on my side. The point is, most people aren't willing to face the battle. And the battle is 50-50. It is everything outside and everything inside. And the stuff inside, most of you guys have running on repeat, and you've never handled it. So the demon is so big, and he's brought all his friends, and they dug into all your emotional control centers. So every time adversity shows up, it triggers an emotional response, which triggers this physiological cascade of events, this neurochemical response, this cardiovascular response, hell, this digestive, this gastrointestinal response. It causes this cascade of things to occur in your body, which makes you feel a certain way, which makes you look at something and think a certain way. So it just becomes this vicious cycle, and you never face your opponent or the demon. You want to win in life? You have to face both. And then you need to be ready for the next one, because every time you face an opponent, you get a little better. Every time you face a demon, a new one comes back stronger. But you have to be willing to do that. But this is why people bounce around through everything, through successes and failures, because they've never handled shit. They're too busy hiding behind things. They haven't been forced to make fire in their backyard. They haven't been forced to get in the ring and get punched in the face and know what it feels like. And then be told, get back up. Do you feel safe with yourself? Do you really feel safe with your own abilities? Because there's arrogance, which goes, oh yeah, I'm great at what I do, but you really aren't. And deep down inside, you know it, but you're too arrogant to ask for help or to take the time to learn or to pay the money to learn. Listen, I know somebody that didn't, I just can't come up with the money. There's nothing more disgusting to me than a human being that goes, I need to become successful in whatever arena that is, whatever area of life that is, and somebody goes, here's the solution, it's going to cost this much. And they half-ass it, they go through part of the work, and when the opportunity comes to pay again, yeah, renew or pay more or find someone even better at it. See, better, not easier. A lot of people go, this program didn't work for me, this coach didn't work for me, this sport didn't work for me, because they weren't willing to do the work. So what they're really looking for is something easier, which goes right back to them not facing the opponent and not handling the demon in their mind. So they're going to spend their entire life running this hamster wheel of running away from adversity and never handling the things that come into their life and never becoming a stronger version of themselves. If you want to become the most lethal, like high integrity, high value, filled with purpose, powerful man or woman, you've got to face every opponent and you've got to go to war with every demon until you win, not if you win. Like I said, I had somebody go, well, no, I really want to, but, and I've talked about this before. And I was like, she irritated me so bad because I was almost embarrassed for her conduct. So you're an embarrassing human being. You don't want your goals as much as you like to talk about it. So you're stuck in the planning stage. So ask yourself, if you had to, could you come up with the money? Could you invest the time? Would you be willing to do it tired, aggravated, sleepy, angry, sad? All of those things matter, because if you're not willing to go to war and face that opponent under any circumstances, you don't want what's on the other side of that opponent. You just think you do. And that's where the demons come in, because a lot of times those demons grab a hold of you and go, that's right, you don't want that as much, but it's okay. You have permission to stay back here. That's not going to help anybody. Least of all you. And people lose faith in you. You start to lose it all. And I think one of the things that people, I'm moving some stuff around here. One of the things that I think people struggle with is setting goals and then not following through with the battle required to achieve the goal. Goals bring adversity. You know how you become successful in life? Successful marriage, successful business, successful finances, successful health? Hunt for adversity. I mean, look for it, but then be prepared to get in the arena. And understand that every time when you keep hunting adversity, the next mountain's a little higher, the next opponent is a little tougher. The next battle's going to take a little longer. And with every one of those comes a whole new horde of demons. You have to be willing to go, I know I'm going to win. I just have to be willing to stay here and keep fighting. I might be bloody, might be brutal, I might be frustrated, I might want to quit, I might run low on energy and time, I might drain every dollar I have out of every account I've got, but I know I'm going to win. The second you go, oh, I'm not sure, the second you pull back, it was all for nothing. It was all for nothing. Because almost winning is not winning. Almost making a sale is not making a sale. Almost, I was so close to being successful. It's like the people that go on Survivor and go, I made it further than I thought. Didn't you go into the fucking game to win? Didn't you go to come out with whatever it is, $1 million or however much it is, I don't know. Didn't you go just to come in, like to go first place? And people go, it's not always about winning. Yes, it is. Winning matters. For you, winning matters. It mattered that my son started that fire. Because if he didn't, that would have stuck in his head and he would have transferred that to something else. That is the ugliest virus, the ugliest mental virus you can give yourself, is to convince yourself that the opponent was too strong and then allow that demon to take root in your mind and just keep whispering and talking. See, demon can't get you to do anything physically. You have to make the decision to do it. And a lot of people do. They go, oh, oh yeah, but they made me do it. No, you decided to do it. Nothing in your world can make you do anything without your permission. But everything in your world can control you if you allow it to. And nothing in your world wants you to win more than you. Just so you know. So all the people you think are rooting for you, most of them aren't. And all of the times that you think you're winning because you got close, you didn't. Get it? Next time you're having sex with your spouse, bring them to almost an orgasm. Do that repeatedly. See how long they want to have sex with you. Or until they just smash you in the face for going, are you nuts? Finish! Listen, if you almost made a sale for $1 million, you were so close, your bank account's still empty. If you almost lifted the weight for a gold medal, you didn't get the gold. If you were so close to asking the girl out, you almost asked her out, she's marrying someone else. Those are all the adversities that you have to be willing to look at. And the only way through adversity is to be willing to go to battle. The only way to get through anything is to go, I'm gonna get in the ring and I'm gonna stay in there and I'm gonna box. I don't care if it's Tyson and he's gonna take my head off. I am not stopping until I'm the last one standing. And people will argue going, well, what if they're bigger, faster, stronger, and better than you? Expect that. Expect that. You have to be more willing to stay there than they are. You have to make it more uncomfortable for your opponent. You just have to knock them the hell out. But you also have to be willing to do that for yourself, for that demon inside. See, what happens is if you stay where you are, your fridge is empty, your house is cold, the people leave, you're alone, your car's broken down, and the life you have becomes barren. Because there's no purpose. You've been playing safe. And playing safe is the most catastrophically destructive force in nature. Because nowhere in nature does it play safe. You go out into the forest, everything is trying to kill you. You have to understand that everything is trying to come against you to slow you down, except for what you put out mentally. If you go, I will bend the universe to my will, God pays attention and then says this, here are all the obstacles, earn it. Because nobody else is going to do that. The only people that want you to win in your life, there's only 3. Your mom, your dad, and God. Everybody else wants you to win as long as you don't win bigger than they are. You can doubt me all you want, it's a fact. Which means you need to be your biggest fucking fan. But you also need to be your most savage coach, the one that goes, get back up. I think I had a discussion with somebody one time. I'm already 38 minutes in. These vlogs are becoming podcasts. Where they said I can't get past a certain amount of money every year. It was about $22 million. Right? I can't get past this money. I just can't. I've been trying. So I've tried better marketing. I've tried, different angles. I've retargeted people. And I said, did you tighten up your message? How do you mean? Well, is what you're telling everybody else what you do? Would you do what you're expecting them to do? Well, yeah, of course, is what he said. I go, everything? Everything that you, and I'm not going to talk about what it is, but if you're not willing to do what you're expecting others to do, you don't feel safe, and they sure as fuck don't feel safe. Because you're not willing to do it, which means you don't feel safe with yourself, which means if you get put in a corner and called out, you're going to be exposed as a liar. That's a very uncomfortable feeling. Because when I lost all of my money, twice without Brandy and once when she was in my life, when I had to explain to her that we had nothing, I felt like such a piece of shit. And I mean, I was running on fumes. We were that bad, and it all came back to me. I was the problem. I wasn't doing what I was saying I was doing. I wasn't following through on what I knew I should have been following through on. I wasn't carrying myself as a leader. I was carrying myself as a victim. In my head, I kept coming up with reasons why next month will be better. Those guys will pay me eventually. I was waiting for the one big sale. All the time, it was something I was blaming externally. But along with that came the anxiety, the depression, the frustration, the overwhelm. If you have any of those feelings, it's because there's a demon in your head. And going out and doing fucking push-ups or burpees, yeah, I want you to break your state. I do. Anytime you start to feel adversity, anytime you start to feel, sorry, my eyes are dry because they got smoked out like crazy. part of what happens when you make a fire in your property is the smoke, just the wind. I don't know if you guys get that, but no matter where you are, let me know if you agree with me. The wind blows the smoke right into your face. Doesn't matter where you are. Today the wind is coming from the north. It didn't matter. I could have been on the north side. It would have hit me square in the face. But if you're suffering adversity, or if you're suffering from overwhelm or depression or anxiety or frustration or bitterness or anger or all these emotions where you can't take it, you're so done, it's because you keep running out of the arena. You keep seeing an opponent and running away, and then you turn around, the opponent's bigger. And the demon knows. And so he just digs claws in more. You have to be willing to go, I don't like where I'm at. I'm gonna face that opponent. And I feel safe enough to know that I've trained enough and I'm prepared enough to go to war with that. See, if you think that you're going to jump into a multi-million-dollar business and you've never made more than $32,000 a year and you're going to do it tomorrow, that's the problem. You don't have the business maturity, the financial maturity, the emotional maturity, and the character conduct to support it, which means you're going to fall apart. And people get upset about that. No, learn the skill set, become better, but then you have to be willing to suck first. You have to be willing to be shitty at something before you can be great. That's a demon. That's an opponent. And that's probably the biggest one. The hardest belt, just so you know, in jiu-jitsu that I've ever had to get. People ask me all the time, is it really hard? Yeah, it was the white belt, walking through the damn door. That was the hardest belt I've ever had to get. So before you even think about getting on the mat and rolling with a black belt, how about you walk inside and get the white belt? Do all the shitty, terrible things, back falls and hip escapes, non-stop. And I still do them because I'm always going to sharpen the sword. But the problem is not the adversity and not the demon. It's that you keep running away from them. You want to get just ridiculously rich in your business? Look at the adversity you are unwilling to face. It's not your ads. It's what you're doing with your ads. It's the message behind your ads. It's not your customer. It's how you're treating your customer. It's not your prices. It's what you believe about your prices. It's not your spouse not supporting you in your business. It's what you don't believe or what you do believe about that. It's not that they won't pay for something. It's that you think that's the only avenue to get the money. All of those things come from you. That's what cost me. I almost burned my whole life to the ground. You guys saw the story that I wrote yesterday about God. You want to understand, like, if you doubt that God is real, go read my story yesterday, January 18th, 2025, for whoever sees this in like June. Go read the story. Because if you doubt the existence of God, I can't count the number of miracles and blessings that we have stacked since the day my eyes opened and I saw my wife there. When I saw my wife, I died on the table. Right? I told you, I looked down, black and white, room full of, I don't know how many beds, hundreds. And a giant nurse, I couldn't make out her face, pushing me back down on the bed saying, this one keeps trying to get up. Turns out they nicked my aorta and I died. It was over, and the surgeon could have called it. And it has nothing to do with medical obligation and above all, do no harm. There comes a point when you just can't win the fight. That could have been his point, but and my wife talked to God. The surgery took 45 minutes longer than it was supposed to. And my wife talked to God the entire time. And I knew it when I opened my eyes and I saw her and she went, hi, my babe. I stopped listening to anyone else because all I heard was her and God. And I knew there is no opponent I'm not willing to face. None. My buddy Tim Elliott, he said, I told you, we did a podcast together, and he said, you must feel so indestructible after going through all that. And I said, yeah, I do, because I know I've got the armor of God, and I got his shield and his sword, and I'm taking heads of Goliath. So look at where you're running away from the battle, and look at the demon in your mind. Because both of those need to go, which means you need to address what's outside of you, the world around you, and what's inside. You have to address all the things that you've been hiding from. Because until you do that, the same demon's going to show up, but you're going to eat away all your resources around you until all you're left with is this barren landscape, and all you can see is everything that you want, but it just keeps getting further and further. Anyway, I'm 45 minutes in. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. If you made it till the end, I realize now it's like 6:30. But that means a lot to me. I put these out because I want you to win. I don't ask for any money. I'm not ever going to. I hope you guys have a kick-ass rest of the night. And, I'll see you tomorrow. Never miss.
This is where we fight. This is where they die.